Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news for your New Year's Eve plans. If you're going to watch Ryan Seacrest, a couple comedians will be on: Gabe Iglesias, Sebastian Maniscalco, and Miss Pat. We're told each comedian will appear throughout the show discussing different topics. Gabe Iglesias will discuss his favorite fashion trends of 2023. Sebastian will touch upon pop culture moments in 2023 that ain't right. And Miss Pat will discuss projects that went on strike this year. Dave Chappelle special's out on Netflix today. Dave Chappelle, The Dreamer. We'll see what comes out of that one. I'll talk about that one during the week. The Wall Street Journal profiled Dave Chappelle a little bit, and they were talking about his attempts to open a comedy club in Yellow Springs. The Journal tells us the comedy and music club bears his logo, a white C on a field of red, black, and green outside on a video screen. There's still construction fencing around the brick building. The restaurant won't open for months, and the venue's current name, which is YS Firehouse, could change. But Dave is already breaking in a performance room designed for less than 200 people. He's performed there 3 times over a recent weekend for audiences including locals and family. According to one attendee, says the Journal, Chappelle said the club was one of his proudest achievements and linked it to the village's history as a haven for artists, freethinkers, and the liberal politics of Antioch College, where Chappelle's late father taught. The Journal's article then gets into the various controversies Dave finds himself in. They write, Chappelle's critics say he's been using the global platform of Netflix to hammer on vulnerable groups, harping on their supposed sensitivities and social ranking. Former fans call it a fixation that damages his legacy. Chappelle defends such material. Mark Gomez attended a Chappelle show in San Antonio. Mark said, I just respect him and the way he isn't caught up in the machine of the industry. He then gestured to all the $90 Chappelle hoodies that were for sale and said, this is all money, but it doesn't seem like money is driving all his decisions. Meredith attended a show in Mississippi and said that she's hypersensitive to Chappelle's bits about LGBTQ people because one of her 2 adult sons is gay. Meredith said they hadn't informed her son about seeing a comic that he can't stand. Meredith's husband, Brent, said, he's in a media bubble, just like the rest of us. He'll give us hell, but he'll understand. I can laugh at what Chappelle says, or I can dismiss it, or I can be offended, but that's fine, because the next thing he says will probably be funny. 19-year-old Arlo found the show funny. Arlo has cerebral palsy. In that show, Chappelle began with his mock promise of doing all handicap jokes. And then Chappelle pretended to be a disabled person in the audience, annoyed because they wanted jokes about the expense of trans people. 19-year-old Arlo said that was the funniest part of the set because I could totally relate. In the Daily Beast, Sean McCarthy writes that this was the year that TikTok ruined comedy. Thanks, Matt Rife. Sean recaps Matt Rife's year. Back in January, Matt re-released his debut special titled OnlyFans on the 800-pound gorilla YouTube channel. Then in February, Rife put out his second stand-up special, Matthew Stephen Wright, on the platform Moment. He re-released that hour on his YouTube channel in April. That has gotten more than 18 million views. Then the Netflix special Natural Selection, Rife's 3rd comedy special in less than a year. Maybe that's why the material wasn't good. I mean, how much do you have? McCarthy wrote, because TikTok broke Matt Rife big time, his example somehow broke the brains of many other, mostly older comedians in the industry who suddenly believed they needed their own crowd work clips to replicate Rife's rise to fame. Sam Morril included captioning and reaction shots for the crowd work portions of his special. Joe List made a running joke of hoping to generate clips in his latest special. Even Joe Pera got in on the action. A flood of crowd work only specials hit YouTube. Mateo Lane, Big J, Stavros, Jessica Curson, TJ Miller. Kyle Kinane mocked the trend on his social media and told Sean earlier in the year, I hate bad crowd work and the fact that people will perceive it as this easy bounce towards a viral clip. And so everybody's putting out clips where I'm like, I would delete this from my phone if I took this at a show. You put it online, there's this mentality of like, just as long as there's content out there. Kyle says, I'm like, wow, what a sea of crap we've created. McCarthy writes, so what's the problem? Gary Goldman lays it out in the opening minutes of his special. Gary says, I just want to let the people in the front rows know they're safe from me asking what they do for work. I remember going to comedy shows when I was in high school and later, and the comedian would ask somebody what they did for work and then proceed to ridicule their profession. And I just remember thinking, if I'm ever in the front row at a comedy show and a comedian asks me what I do for work, I'll stand up and say, what do you do for work? I didn't come here to be forcibly cast in your TikTok video, you lazy hack. Sean adds, the dirtiest little secret about crowd work, it's not actually stand-up comedy. It instead transforms the stand-up comedians into the thing they claim to hate the most and respect the least, improvisers. Kinane says, if anything, I feel bad for the TikTok stars. Like, all right, well, you have a lot of followers. How are you going to monetize that? Well, we'll put you in a comedy club, but they're not stand-ups. They're TikTok folks. And they go and sell hundreds of tickets, and people get there and are like, oh, yeah, you had 10 minutes of material, and now you're on stage for an hour. I don't even blame them. I blame the managers. Whoever gets a hold of them just puts them out there to make that quick percentage of all of them before they burn out and realize they're not stand-ups. Man, late-stage capitalism affects us all. Rolling Stone dusted off what they called a previously unpublished interview with Tom Smothers from 2015 under the headline, "Tom Smothers made the variety show cool." Quoting Tom, "I didn't want to do the standard BS. I've shared this article in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group." Smothers talked about fighting with the network, and he had this theme song they wanted to do, and the network was like, no, you got to have something like Bob Hope and Thanks for the Memories, something memorable. Smothers said, "We thought, oh Christ, that was the first argument we had." Rolling Stone asked about booking rock bands like The Who. Did he get grief for that? No, none at all. Occasionally something would come up, like when Sonny and Cher were on and there was this big controversy. They could see her nipples through her dress. They wanted to put bandages over them. Jefferson Airplane came out and Grace Slick did Crown of Creation in blackface. I don't know why. No one said a thing. Smothers also talked about doing pot jokes. Did the censors flag it? Yeah. We kept making up things for it, like Mary Jane and a couple different names I've forgotten. And we had Goldie Keefe, who did the weather report. She said, "If you have unsightly roaches around the office, send them in. We'll take care of them." And then we got rolled up joints in the mail from the kids. Brian Regan is playing Minneapolis tonight for New Year's Eve. Does he always work New Year's Eve? Brian said, "I used to like to take it off and host a party, but I'm changing my tune on that. It's good for audiences because they can go and see my show and still go out afterwards and party, as long as we don't have to be on stage at midnight. I used to ring in the New Year at comedy clubs and the staff would hand out noisemakers. Adults think they're adults, but they act like children when they're given something that makes noise." Regan talked about where he likes to film his specials, specifically theaters. Brian says, "As much as I like comedy clubs, they often have people at tables. That means people have drinks and are looking at each other and they start talking to each other. It becomes less of a show and more of a party. In a theater, the audience is more focused. When people are in a place that's cool and fun and comfortable, it puts them in a good mood. It's one less hurdle you have to jump over. If I'm not funny, at least there's some beautiful stuff to look at." And that is your comedy news for the year, huh? See what I did there? If you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you want to support the show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Or if you're hip to podcasting 2.0, you can use the Fountain app and stream some sats in my direction. You can click on the show notes if you want to learn more about that. Happy New Year. See you tomorrow.